Okay, hi, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our article. Our article title is The Effect of Information Opacity on the Weighting of Performance Measures in the Compensation Contracts of CEOs, Evidence from U.S. Firms. And my name is Liangshen Chen. I'm a PhD student in Department of Accounting, National Taiwan University. Okay, and this is the agenda of my presentation. So first, let me introduce the research motivation. As an accounting student, we're curious about whether the financial statements are really important because in the world, we can use a lot of information provided to make our investment decisions. So my question is, are financial statements really important? Because investors can rely on other information such as stock information or analyst forecasts to make their investment decisions. And in previous years, there are lots of literature which studies different types of informations on the constructions of the compensation contracts. So our research questions is that there are different types of informations in the market, such as accounting information and stock-related informations. And typically in the compensation contracts, it is commonly seen that accounting-based performance measures and stock-based performance measures are the two most commonly used performance measures in the compensation contracts. And our research question is that whether the information opacity of this accounting information and stock-related information can affect the weighting of accounting-based performance measures and stock-based performance measures in the compensation contracts. And the second part is some literature and our hypothesis development. Basically, all listed firms are required to file their financial reports to the government. So in terms of information volume, the information opacity of accounting information should be similar across all firms. However, the volume of stock-related information can be different across firms. For example, we can use the number of analysts analyzing each firm to measure the volume of stock-related information for each firm. And because there are some well-known companies such as TSMC, which has a lot of analysts who are analyzing their stocks. And in contrast, some unknown firms has a little amount of analysts who are analyze their stocks. So the information opacity of stock-related information may not be similar across firms. And this motivates us to study this research. And we use this theory proposed by Banker and Tatar in 1989 to construct our research. In their theory, they propose that the optimal weight of different types of information in a compensation should be formulated at this formula. In this formula, L represents the weighting of the performance measure using the first type information, and M represents the weighting of performance measure using the second type information. And their relative weighting in the compensation contract should be on the right-hand side, using the rho as a measurement. The rho 1 and rho 2 are the measurement of the precision of the information of each type. So according to this formula, if the precision of the first type information is higher, then the first type information can better reflect or capture the reality of the firm. And accordingly, the weighting of the first type information should be higher when constructing the compensation contracts. And by using this formula and this theory to our research, okay, if the volume of the stock-related information is lower, which means that the opacity is higher, then the accounting information, such as the financial statements information, can better reflect or capture the reality of the firm, such that the weighting of the accounting-based performance measure should be higher when constructing the compensation contracts. And in this hypothesis, we study the volume of the information of each type. But the precision of the information can also be measured by the quality of the information. So the second hypothesis is that if the quality of the financial statement is poor, which means that the opacity is higher for the financial statements, then stock-related information can better reflect or capture the reality of the firm, such that the weighting of stock-based performance measures should be higher when constructing the compensation contracts. So these are the two hypotheses that we construct in our research. Okay, so let's continue to our research design. So first, we define some variables that we want to measure in our regression. Our dependent variable is the compensation of CEO, And this compensation is the natural log of the total paid compensation of CEO, including their salary, bonus, and options, and so on. And our independent variables can be separated into two parts. The first part is the performance measures. We use accounting-based and stock-based performance measures in our regression models. And according to previous literatures, we use return on assets, ROA, as our accounting-based performance measures proxy. And we use stock return, RET, as our stock-based performance measure proxy. And for the information opacity measures, we use accounting information and stock-related information respectively. For the volume of the information, we use spread and analytics of the firms to capture the volume of stock-related information. Spread means the bid-ask spread of the stock of the firms, and analysts captures the number of analysts who analyze the stock of the firm. And for accounting information, we used absolute discretionary accruals to capture the quality of the financial statements. And because there are two formulas provided in the previous literatures to calculate the discretionary accruals, and we use both to calculate the discretionary accruals. And also, as suggested by previous literature, we included 5 control variables in our regression models. So let me introduce our regression models. Model A and Model B capture the volume of the stock-related information. So in Model A, we use spread to capture the volume of the stock-related information. If the volume of stock information is low, then the spread should be high theoretically. So in Model A, we will expect that alpha 4 to be positive and alpha 5 to be negative. Because when the spread is high, we would expect that the weighting put on RET should be lower, and the weighting put on ROA should be higher. On the other hand, in Model B, analysts capture the number of analysts who analyze the stock of the firm. So if the number of analysts is high, then we will expect that the weighting put on RET should be higher, and the weighting put on ROA should be lower. And accordingly, we will expect that beta 4 to be negative and beta 5 to be positive. And Model C and Model D, we want to measure the quality of the information. And we use the absolute discretionary accruals to measure the quality of the accounting financial statements. So if the absolute discretionary accruals is high, it means that the financial statements is the quality is poor, and therefore we will expect that gamma 4 and delta 4 to be negative, and gamma 5 and delta 5 to be positive. Okay, so let's take a look at our empirical results. In Model A and Model B, we find that the coefficients are as our expectation. In Model A, we find that the coefficient of ROA and spread, the intersections of them are positive, and the intersection of RET and spread is negative, which means that when spread is high, the weighting put on RET should be lower, and the weighting put on ROA should be higher. And in Model B, we look at analysts, and we find that the coefficients are as our expectations. And in Model C and Model D, we take a look at the absolute discretionary accruals. And we find that when the absolute discretionary accruals is high, then the weighting put on ROA will be lower, and the weighting put on RET would be higher. Although the coefficient is not statistically significant, but the sign is as our expectation. So our conclusion is that, first, the weighting of accounting-based performance measure increases, and weighting of stock-based performance measure decreases if the stock-related information is limited, and vice versa, which is performed in Model A and Model B. And secondly, the weighting of accounting-based performance measure decreases, and the weighting of stock-based performance measure increases if the quality of accounting information is poor, which is performed in Model C and Model D. So generally, we verify the theory provided by Banker and Dottar in 1989. And the implications and takeaways of our research is that we verify the theory proposed by Banker and Dottar in 1989, and we show that both the volume and the quality of the information can affect the weighting of performance measures in the compensation contracts, because the volume and the quality, both of them can affect the precision of the information. Therefore, when we ask for more information to be publicly released, we should also be cautious about the quality of the information provided. Okay, thank you for your listening.